afternoon. Welcome to World Talks. I'm your host, Diana Skaya. Hungary is once again testing the limits of EU unity. Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's stance on Ukraine has sparked fresh tensions in Brussels, just as the bloc debates how to use frozen Russian assets to support Kyiv. Meanwhile, Moscow is already pushing back, calling Japan's similar move theft. Now, is Budapest aligning with Moscow, and could this moment actually expose deeper cracks in Europe's common foreign policy? Well, to break it all down, I'm joined by Roland Freudenstein, co-founder, Brussels Freedom Hub. Roland has made a career in public administration, global democracy building, and the think tank world. Roland, welcome to the program. Good to have you on here this morning.
Good morning from Brussels.
All right, let's start, Roland, with Viktor Orbán. Now, his recent moves, especially on Ukraine, have actually deepened Hungary's isolation within the European Union. My question to you is the following. Do you think that Budapest is openly aligning with Moscow and Moscow's position on everything that's going on?
Well, they have been close to the Russian position for quite some time. I would put that at 1, 2, 3 years, however you want to count. And they certainly feel corroborated by Donald Trump's victory last November in the United States presidential election. So, it's nothing really new. What has changed over time is Viktor Orbán's determination to actually disturb and hold up EU decision-making on sanctions policy, on helping Ukraine, on countering Russian aggression. That has become tougher, but it's a gradual process.
I mean, Hungary has repeatedly blocked or even delayed EU aid to Ukraine. At what point does this become an actual real threat to European unity, you would say?
Well, it's always been one. I think the most important element was always the rollover of the Russia sanctions that have been in place since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. This happens every 6 months, and actually freezing the Russian assets is part of that. So Hungary has so far been protesting, but hasn't been vetoing. It has sometimes threatened to veto in the Council. Then there were negotiations. Hungary got some demands fulfilled, such as, for example, taking certain oligarchs off the sanctions list of the European Union. And then Hungary always agreed. Now, the big fear is that this July, with this new administration in Washington in office, this rollover might actually not happen because the US will encourage, and some people even say put pressure on Hungary to actually put their veto on further sanctions against Russia.
If we can just go into that a little bit into more detail, I want to quote you something by Sir William Bowder, a prominent Kremlin critic. Now, he said that he emphasized, of course, on the urgency for the West to utilize frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine, and warned that delays could actually jeopardize the necessary unanimity within the EU to act effectively. This is what he stated. Now, do you agree? Is there a legal or political way to bypass holdouts like Hungary?
Well, I mean, first of all, what Browder was saying is precisely that there is time pressure on the European Union now. So the best way to outmaneuver Hungary would be actually to take a decision on the assets right now, put massive pressure on Hungary by the other member states. And by the way, Hungary is not entirely isolated. Slovakia has been sometimes helping Hungary in the Council, but it's never vetoed. It's never threatened a veto. But Hungary is not completely isolated. And when it comes to using the frozen assets, actually there are some other member states, such as Austria, such as Greece, that also, or Cyprus, for example, that are also hesitant to actually seize the assets and use them to help Ukraine right now, because that is the question. So you have a majority of member states that wants to act fast before even the next rollover of the sanctions becomes a question in the Council. That would be July. But again, to actually decide now to seize the assets and use them to help Ukraine will also require a unanimity. And so the question of pressure on Hungary is an important question even now, not just in July. So it's a bit of a conundrum. It's a very, very complex game. And I think this question can only be solved by massive bilateral pressure on Hungary by other member states.
And how much time do you think that would be able to take for it to actually happen and to take place? How quickly would this be able to?
That really depends on how quickly the other member states can get their act together and build up a united front and then confront Hungary with that. It's not like they have nothing else on their plates at the moment. There is a trade dispute with the United States. There are questions of global security, and there's of course the big Ukraine question. So this is one of several very, very difficult dilemmas that the EU member states are facing, and I would say that it is possible if the political will exists in the other member state capitals, it is definitely possible to get to some point before July.
Roland, let me ask you this. Russia has condemned Japan's decision to provide Ukraine with a loan backed by proceeds from those frozen Russian assets, actually labeling it as theft and treachery. Specifically, Maria Zakharova, the spokesperson for the Russian FM, said that the move would actually further strain Japan-Russia relations. She also accused Tokyo of complicity in the, quote, illegitimate use of sovereign Russian funds. Could this actually set a precedent for how the Kremlin responds if the EU did something similar?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think what the Kremlin still hasn't completely gotten is that Japan has really toughened up its position. That Japan is not the country that you can easily scare and bully that it used to be in past decades when it came to global security questions. And I think, the Kremlin's talk about theft is A, no surprise, and B, of course, it's not going to change if and when the European Union does the same thing as Japan. So, my recommendation here would be let it happen, ignore it. It's absolutely politically, morally, and legally justified to actually use these assets for a backup, for credit, for a loan.
Roland, could Viktor Orbán's position ultimately delay larger security decisions in Europe, as in, for example, have security guarantees or NATO coordination for Ukraine?
No. I mean, whatever will happen in terms of so-called reassurance force, I mean, that's the latest buzzwords in Brussels and other capitals. So what will happen in terms of a reassurance force for Ukraine will happen outside the EU institutions, and it will even happen outside NATO institutions. That's why so many countries, 31 actually at the moment, including countries in Asia and elsewhere, are now building this coalition of the willing to help Ukraine. And then some of those countries will actually volunteer to send soldiers for the reassurance force. All this is nothing Hungary can really veto or slow down in any significant way. If Hungary doesn't want to play along, they're just not going to be part of the coalition of the willing, as they aren't at the moment. So what can they possibly slow down?
Thank you so much, Roland Freudenstein, co-founder of Brussels Freedom Hub, for being with us here and for all your insights on World Talks this morning.
Pleasure.
And that completes this edition of World Talks. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.